I'm going to show you how to research merch designs using Merch Informer, and we're going to start right now. What's up YouTube, this is Doug from merchmetrics.com. Welcome to another video. If this is your first time here and you want to learn how to design and sell t-shirts, grow your Merch by Amazon business, or learn about other ways to make money selling print-on-demand products, start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. If you're not familiar with Merch Informer, it's a set of tools for helping Merch by Amazon creators to research designs, upload designs, and to even create designs. Since the last time I tried Merch Informer, they've added a lot of new features, and I kind of think that now it's the best way to do research using Merch by Amazon. Now, in the past, I've always thought that going to Amazon itself and doing your research there was probably the best way, but now on Merch Informer you have the ability to filter your search so that you're only looking at specific BSR ranges. You can also search by keyword, and it gives you the ability to really drill down into a specific niche and find out what kind of shirts or designs are selling in that niche. It's something that you didn't used to be able to do. You were restricted to only the top selling overall, and you couldn't actually search a subset. Say I wanted to start at 500,000 to a million rather than competing for the most competitive shirts that are selling the most often. And I always have thought that the best opportunity on merch is not for the really high volume sales. Sometimes you get lucky and you end up with something like that, but really the opportunities are for those shirts that sell 1, 2, 3, 4 times a month that aren't ever going to have a really competitive BSR that isn't going to attract a lot of copycats. The updates they've made go beyond just the ability to filter your searches when you're looking for attractive niches to make designs for. They've also added the ability to create favorite groups. And if you've watched any of my previous videos about how I used to do research, you know that I used to go to Merch by Amazon. I would just go to Amazon. I would do searches for my niches using a snippet of text that is in all of the bullet points, and then I would mostly see merch designs. Now, in order to create kind of a mood board for myself for going forward when I was looking for things that I might want to design or categories that were attractive, I would just snip a picture of the designs. I would paste them into a Google Doc, and then I would use that Google Doc when I went to design. So I could just bulk research, and I wouldn't have to worry about sticking in a certain niche. I could go pull those images out later, pull them into Adobe Illustrator, or now I'm using Affinity. I could pull those in, put them all around my artboard, and have them available while I was working. Well, now with the ability to create your favorite groups, every time I do research, I just create a new favorite group, and I'll show you how to do this here in just a few minutes. I'll jump in the computer and we'll go through and do some samples, but I can create a new favorite group for each time I do my research, and I use that favorite group then when I go to design. Another cool feature that they've added recently is the bulk upload tool that allows you to upload to multiple platforms simultaneously if you sell on different print-on-demand platforms. Personally, I sell on Etsy using Printful, I sell on Redbubble, and I sell on Merch by Amazon. So with the bulk upload tool, I can create a CSV file, basically a spreadsheet. I can upload that spreadsheet and it'll grab all of my files, take my bullet points, my titles, descriptions, and prices, and then populate them out into all the different platforms that I'm using. Now, it's probably going to get its own video because right now Printful has been locked down because of the pandemic and their backlog of orders, and they're no longer allowing new direct to garment printing for t-shirts like we would normally do. So I'm kind of hitting the pause button on that one. We'll have that in another video. If you're not already a Merch Informer subscriber, stick around because I have a coupon down in the description that'll save you 20%. Alright, we got all that out of the way, so let's jump into Merch Informer and we can go ahead and do some research and find some designs that we can create. Alright, I'm back. I've jumped in the computer. Here we are at merchinformer.com, and this is the login screen. You can see here that if you don't already have an account, you can register, and they do offer a free trial. But remember, if you use my affiliate coupon code down in the description, you can save 20%. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and log in here, and my information is already in. Alright, so as you can see, it's kind of a busy interface when you get inside, but you can see also that there's just a ton of tools you can use on the left-hand side. Now, since we're just doing research tonight, I'm going to go ahead and just focus on a couple of the options over here. Now, first step for me whenever I'm doing research is I want to start with a new favorites list. So I'm going to click favorites over here on the left, and you can see that I have some other favorites. The last time I did research was before the shutdown or during the shutdown, when I got in here and I created a list, and I always create my lists and give them a date, so I know that how long ago I've done the research and if I've used them or not. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new category today. I'm going to name it with today's date. And that way, once I know that I'm done with these, I've already gone through, I've created all the designs I want to, I can go ahead and just delete these. So we'll go ahead and save that. And that's all we're going to do from this screen. So now it's time to start looking for designs we think we might want to research. So I'm going to go over to the product search. Sorry, Merch Hunter. And this is basically the utility I was telling you about in the beginning of the video, where I can actually filter based on a certain range of BSRs. So I could go from BSR 1 all the way down to 2 million, or I can go anywhere in between. Now, I like to shoot for somewhere around 500,000 to about a million or $1.5 million. That's going to give me that sweet spot where the designs are popular enough that they get regular sales, but they're not so popular that everyone is lining up to copy them. All right, and now it comes the part where we decide, what we want to search for, and that's the one thing that I can't really teach you. It's just all based on creativity. As you go through and you're doing your research, you'll see something that will trip your memory, or you will you get an idea from somebody else's design or one of their keywords, and then you'll know, oh, that's something I can look for. I could maybe go into a sub niche of that, or I could go into a related field, like say it's a profession, and I could say, oh, okay, well, I thought of nurses. Now what other professions work closely with nurses? There's physicians, obviously, but what about nursing assistants? What about medical assistants? What about EMTs? This is where you could kind of like branch off in a bunch of different directions. So you're really focused on some sort of broad keyword, and then you want to narrow down as much as possible. Now, I like to search more than just 100. I want to get probably the top 500 in whatever category. And searching from 500,000 all the way to 1.5 million, there's obviously, depending on what I search for, going to be a lot more designs in there. We can narrow this and then expand it if we need to. So let's say I just go from like 500,000 to 800,000. We can look for specific niches, and this will tell us if there's like good sales, if there's multiple products in a certain niche or for a certain keyword. We can tell that that's probably a good place to go. So let's just go ahead. We'll go with our previous example, and we'll just search for nurse, and we'll just kind of go through the designs. Now, I'm looking for a couple of things here. One, I'm looking for things that jump out at me as unique. I'm looking for good reviews. I'm looking for color schemes. I'm looking for graphics that I think I can emulate, or that I can create, fairly easily. So as we go through these, obviously I can create a text-only design. That's no problem. And the BSR on this one for the past 30 days is about 1 million. And it looks like they're estimating about 1 sale. Now, like I said earlier, I think these are pretty skewed right now. I don't think that a lot of the BSRs really represent where these shirts should actually be, because there were no sales for so long. I think the algorithm's going to have to catch up a bit. But I do think it's going to be good to compare across the different designs that are inside of these niches, and we can use the BSRs as a comparison. I just don't think that the estimated sales currently is going to be accurate. So let's look through some of these, and we'll go ahead and start adding favorites to some of these that we think might be good. I'm also reading the titles. I'm reading the merchant names, because that's usually somewhere that people will put additional keywords. I'm looking at prices. I don't want to be priced at the very bottom. I want to be priced near $19.99, maybe even higher. This here, Future Nurse, I'll be there for you. It's clever. It's using a recognizable style, which is like the Friends logo from the show. It's not something I want to copy, but it is something that I do think is easy to recreate, and is also something that anyone could do, which also makes it maybe a little less attractive to me, because it would be really easy to copy. Now this one right here, Real Men Date Nurses, this one I'm going to click, and the reason I'm going to click it is because, and I'm going to select my favorite group and submit, is because it has some graphics that not just everyone would have. I can recreate those myself, use my own graphics. It's mostly text-based, and I think I could probably recreate this in just a few minutes. The syringes, there's two of them, but they're the same. They're the exact same image, just reflected. That'd be something that's easy to do. The price is low, but the BSR has just jumped up with one estimated sale, and it's right around $1 million. So that's a good spot for me. That's something that I would definitely think about trying to come up with my own idea for. Now, I would not use syringes. I would use something else. Some other different kind of logo, maybe different color scheme, maybe different fonts. I don't want to copy. I want to just take the fact that this is selling, approach it from an angle of, okay, what can I do to really like amp this up? What can I do to take a different take on it and try and create my own version that isn't a copy of this, but is unique to me. As we go through here, this is probably a popular shirt these days because of the wash your hands and the pandemic. It's so easy to copy that it's not something that I'd be interested in. So I'm going to just keep going. And here's something I was talking about earlier. Here we have a phlebotomist shirt. I bet you phlebotomy is a pretty underserved niche. It looks like, yeah, this just jumped 300,000 spots, has a BSR of what, 1.5 million. This is a good one. This is one that I would definitely consider looking at. Again, we're just going to select today's favorite list, and then we'll just continue on. And I'll look at these when I'm doing my designs. I'm not trying to dig too deep into these at this point. If I was going to go back later and actually create some of these, I would I'd open up my favorites. I'd look at them while I was doing my designs on my other monitor. And then I might read the titles and descriptions when I'm actually going to write my titles and descriptions. All right, as we continue down, so licensed practical nurse, or LPN, that is a subset of nurses with a slightly different education, right, than a registered nurse. So that's definitely another niche or another subcategory of nursing. That's definitely something I could think about. I'm going to add it to my favorites, not because I think this design is great. I think it could easily be improved. I'm going to add it because licensed practical nurses is a good keyword. I do wish we had like a drop down instead of a pop-up for when we add favorites, so that it would be a little quicker to go through these. But hey, it's a pretty great tool, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. All right, the coffee scrubs and rubber gloves, man, that's kind of played out. I'm going to keep going. These American flag shirts, they were real popular a couple of years ago. It looks like this one's still selling decent, but about 200 million, about 2 million. This one's about 8 million. Had a recent sale, but that's I guess actually, so this is the current BSR and this is the average over the last 30 days. This is where it's skewed. This is where I don't think you can trust the BSRs. One sale probably had an overly it had a really big impact on what happened to this shirt because the BSRs had degraded the whole time that we weren't selling anything. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on down. I'm not creating the American flag shirts currently. I do think that they look better when the American flag is on the back, not on the front. So if you saw a shirt like this, you might recreate it by creating something where the graphic was on the back and maybe you had something like this in the front. All right, now this is a pretty easy design. You could recreate this in Illustrator or Affinity really quickly, but I think there's probably too much competition for that. Again, here, I'm not a super great artist. I don't do characters, and if I had a pack of graphics that I knew I could use for this, I would maybe consider doing it, but I don't currently have something that I'm using. Here we have retired ER nurse. So this is a very, very specific design. It's not only retired nurse, but retired ER nurse. I'm going to click that because it has sales and the BSR has been increasing. Well, I guess decreasing. It's been improving. And so I think that's definitely something I want to consider. This one is just mostly text. It's the hold my beer joke that is, I think, kind of played out too, so I'm going to keep going. It's a surgical text shirt. I'm going to click that, not because I understand the shirt, because I don't know what a schnit is. Probably some sort of, that's a hemostat, so maybe it's a type of hemostat. I don't know. But I'm going to click it because the surgical tech is another one of those sub niches that I wasn't necessarily aware of or hadn't thought of just recently, so I want to consider that when I make my designs. I'm a proud dad. I mean, a lot of these, man, people have been making the same designs on merch for years. Trauma Llama, I like that one because I like the saying. We'll see. The llama, I've heard some people having problems with copyright and trademark because of the Fortnite llama, and I think that's why the llamas became popular, but I'm not, don't quote me on that. This one's a little bit too elaborate for me. I'm not a great illustrator. If I had that graphic, I would consider it. Get your flu shot, that one I like. It's simple, gets the point across. It's something that people who are passionate, I mean, it's almost flu season. It's not flu season yet, but come October, this shirt might see a surge. All right, see more of these Nurse I'll Be There For You shirts. This one's better done, or, well, I shouldn't say that exactly. So I like the font on the Nurse better, but I don't like that it kind of curves upwards and away from the text below. I mean, I think it's fine if it curves, but the text below should follow. That's just nitpicky. School nurse. So school nurse, I'm not going to do a dabbing anything, but a school nurse is another one of those sub careers, I guess, that I would definitely consider creating for. So, all right, so sorry for the cut there. I just realized that I was going through designs and designs and designs and discussing them, and it probably wasn't totally relevant because I did it for like 20 minutes. So I'm just going to cut to the chase here. I'm going to go to the favorites. Now that I've gone through, I've selected a bunch of designs that I want to use for my research. I'm going to go ahead and click here. Once I click my favorites, I get the same grid pattern where I can look through the designs that I've selected. So here, if I was going to start doing my research, I would just go ahead and open this up, put it on my other monitor, and then I would start designing. I'd load up Affinity on one monitor, I'd have my my research on the other, and this is exactly what I would do when I was using the cut and paste method, where I was just putting everything into a Google Doc, because I just keep the Google Doc on the other page. Sometimes I'd copy and paste them over into Illustrator, but I guess I realized that was just an extra step and it didn't really help. So let's go through and look really quickly at what we found. So we have real men date nurses, so dating nurses, men who love nurses, women who love nurses. This is the kind of angle we're going for here. So things we could do is any other recognizable nurse imagery we could use instead of syringes. We could create our own syringes. We could use real women date nurses. We could use, real men marry nurses, real women marry nurses, whatever. I mean, there's a million things we could do, right? We could do a whole bunch of design variations really quickly because it's mostly changing the text. We have just the cross, which is sort of a recognizable healthcare symbol, and then we have syringes, which are recognizable by nurses. Then we go on to the phlebotomist. Without us, your doctor would be guessing. So phlebotomist is another category of profession where we could create designs. There's a lot of phlebotomists. Not as many as there are nurses, but there's a lot of phlebotomists out there. So this is not a bad niche. As we continue on, we have licensed practical nurses. Now, anything we do for nurses, we could do a sub design for licensed practical nurses, or LPNs. So anytime we have RN, anytime we have registered nurse, we could replace that with licensed practical nurse. It's a whole separate field. It's a subset of nursing. It's not a separate field, I guess. It's a subset of the profession. But people who identify as licensed practical nurses would be interested in shirts for their own profession. So that's definitely something we could look at. Now we have the retired ER nurse. This is specific, right? But we have retired ER nurse. We could have retired phlebotomist. We could have retired licensed practical nurse. So there we go. We have created from this, seeing this design, we've created 6 or 7 different variations. They use stars. We could use some other imagery. We could use the same image that we create for the Real Men Date Nurses shirt if we were going to recreate that. Maybe we use a syringe. Maybe we use a stethoscope. Maybe we use something else, right? Maybe we use the hemostat. We saw the hemostat here. That's something recognizable to all nurses, right? So we could use the hemostat. But anyway, as we move on, I mean, that's just, we came up with right there like 6 or 8 different ideas of what we could create just using the few designs that we found. I would have to do some Googling to find out what a schnit is. I think it's a type of hemostat, but I actually don't know. But we've got surgical techs, so retired surgical tech. We've got real men marrying surgical techs or whatever. I mean, as you can see, we can just take this as far as we want to. Trauma llama, now it rhymes, so we'd have to look for something else that sounded good with llama. The get your flu shot one, I mean, that's just a good public service announcement. This syringe, if we created a new syringe for this shirt up here, we could definitely reuse that syringe, say get your flu shot, get your, what other vaccines could we say? Get your tetanus shot, get your Tdap, whatever. Then we've got the school nurse crew. We could say retired school nurse, full-time grandma, retired school nurse, full-time grandpa, LPN, licensed practical nurse. Now this one, they literally just wrote the name of the field, and this shirt gets sales. That's just fascinating, right? This would be so easy to create a better design than this. They did a little bit of texturing, but other than that, there's nothing to that shirt at all. Now the one thing is about this one is the really complex graphic, and I wouldn't be looking to replace the complex graphic. I would be looking to find some other angle I could take on this. But if we look at this design, we can look at all the different imagery that they've added here for things that are items that medical professionals would recognize, right? We've got different syringes, we've got stethoscopes, we've got little medical boxes, band-aids, we could use that just as an inspiration for the different graphics we might want to create over here. And they're all super simple graphics that get the point across and that we could easily recreate. Now I can't make that unicorn, but I could certainly make a band-aid, right? I could certainly make a band-aid out of an ellipse or a rectangle and around the corners, and then add another rectangle, and there you go, you have a band-aid, right? So I mean, there's just a lot of things you can do. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. I mean, I think you understand the gist of it. As I was doing my research, since I found, searching for nurses, I found phlebotomists, but I didn't use the keyword phlebotomist. Now I would continue my search. I would go to search for phlebotomist. I would see what all shirts were there. I would see what new ideas I got, and then I would go check surgical tech. I would check ER nurse, because that's a different type of nurse, right? I would check LPN. Since I didn't search for LPN, I searched for nurse. LPN might bring up a whole different set of results that I could then use to just get more ideas. And what I like about this is that I don't actually have to keep like a tally of things written down. I don't have to have a spreadsheet where I'm keeping track, and I have access to these for all time, right? If I want to ever come back here, say I make one of these shirts for LPNs, and I want to see what they talked about in their titles, descriptions, and bullets, I can go ahead and show the features. I can see what they wrote in their bullet points, and then I can look for more keywords, or I can look for more ideas for things to search for to add to my favorites. Alright, so I think you have a pretty good idea now of how you can do your research using Merch Informer. It's a super powerful tool, and like I said, I didn't used to think it was really that great, but when they added the additional favorite lists, when they added the ability to search for specific BSR ranges, it really became a lot more powerful than just searching on Amazon itself. If you guys are interested, there is a coupon code down in the description. It is Merchmetrics. If you use the coupon code Merchmetrics, you get 20% off your subscription. It is an affiliate link, so if you decide to purchase, I will get a small percentage. If you found this video useful, please consider clicking the like and subscribe buttons. Alright guys, I'll catch you in the next one.